Hello, everybody. Welcome to our Survivor Series post show. I am John Pollock, along with a well-rested Mr. Wai Ting. Hello, Wai. How are you?
Well rested. Yeah, I'm doing very well. How are you, John?
I'm doing all right. I've
Your voice sounds a bit still coarse
so
from last night. What happened?
well. I am fending off multiple people in my house who have all been taken ill over the past week. Like everyone but me has gotten like this crazy cough. So all three of them are just like coughing and coughing. I have been immune to this, and it's starting to catch me. So I can feel it, but I'm good. I'm not. I wouldn't classify myself as sick. It's more so that just my throat sounds a little off. But anyway, that's the health update. Are you feeling good?
I'm feeling good. Yeah, I'm feeling good. Again, well rested, and I guess I should be happy that you didn't knock when you dropped by my house this afternoon.
I thought that we had an interaction, and it turns out you were unconscious when you did so. So I was on my way to my parents' house today, and you're on the way. So I dropped off at your house, and I gave you a gift inside of your mailbox, and then I texted you because I wanted to be, I don't know what your schedule is like, and it turned out you were asleep, so I'm really glad I did not wake you up or anything. But I texted you. I said, hey, your coquito is in your mailbox. And within minutes, I get the thumbs up response, a perfect acknowledgement that I have received your message. Didn't think about it again. And hours later, Wai is... Can you tell the story? Like I am kind of curious how this all happened.
Yeah, I just had a really late night last night and didn't go to sleep until like 9 a.m. So I was out cold, and then I woke up this afternoon, did some sort of chores around the house, rake some leaves, decided to check my mailbox. It's a Saturday, but you know what? Sometimes I might have forgotten something in there. And to my surprise, I find a bottled glass bottle coquito delivered from Newark, courtesy of Brandon, New Jersey, to Scarborough, to BMV.
This has gone through many. The chain of custody of these coquitos has been vast.
For this little drink, I mean, we really should have just drank it like down in Newark, like the amount of travel, the amount of miles on this little bottle that Brandon, has given to us. I mean, I'm sure it'll be worth it, but nonetheless, this thing I find in my mailbox, I'm like, what the hell? When did John drop by? And then I check my text. And I see our exchange, and I see that I've actually liked it. I'm like, what the fuck? When did I do this? Did my wife like grab my phone? Did she like this? So I approach her. I'm like, did you do this? And she's like, no.
Did Oscar maybe he's advanced already?
I had no recollection of this interaction. So
what if it was what if I had a horrible message to send you? Like, what if I was like, hey, I can't do the show tonight. I've got strep throat.
I feel like even unconsciously, I mean, I feel like I would be able to know whether or not to respond with a thumbs up or maybe a thumbs down, or a sad face or something like that.
So you don't remember any of like this actual? Do you remember like taking the phone and? So this was like an unconscious response.
Completely. I didn't know I could do that. That's very dangerous.
I laughed out loud when you sent me your message like hours later and explained this to me. I was like, I'm glad you found it. I mean, that could have just been. I mean, imagine.
Yeah, like we talked about, like these things sitting out, like in the warmth, like like what if it just? I mean, you did text me, so you really did do it properly. But yeah, anyway.
So the coquito is now in your possession. Is it in your fridge?
It's in my fridge. Yeah, I'm looking forward to having it.
All right. As am I. I've heard great things. We have built these things up. I think we should just
we should do it on air. We should do it on air. We should do it like maybe tomorrow night or something, like for Raw.
Well, two nights then. Do you want to do it?
2 nights. Oh shit! It feels like
Saturday.
It's Sunday.
It's Saturday.
Yeah. Okay, we'll save it for Monday.
Okay, we'll do it at the end of Monday's show if you want to do that. Sounds good. Tonight we're talking about the Survivor Series, and then at the end of the show, all patrons that want to call in, we sent out the StreamYard link, so towards the end of the review, you can jump into the queue, and we will be getting to calls as well as feedback and your super chats that you can leave if you are in the YouTube chat. And I do want to alert people that to get the exclusive video content of our cafe feed, you can go to video.postwrestling.com. You can jump aboard there, and that gives you a video version of our cafe content.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, our YouTube memberships is now available, video.postwrestling.com. Also, if you prefer audio and if you prefer sticking to the Apple Podcast platform, we are offering the Post Wrestling Cafe within Apple Podcast itself. We're even going to offer a 7-day free trial for those of you on Apple Podcasts. So you can simply go to your the like click on the link where the shows are, and then you should be able to see the free trial button. And if you sign on, you get all of our exclusives, including last night's Rewind to SmackDown, and even the Newark and New Jersey road diaries that John put together from our trip just last week.
Yeah, and we have several shows coming up for Cafe members, including the Ask Away Mailbag show this Tuesday. I'm going to be jumping on MCU later on Thursday to chat about the Guardians of the Galaxy Christmas special with WH and Wai. And our next Rewind Away will cover an edition of WWF Superstars from May of 1992. So that is all coming up in the next week to 10 days for postwrestlingcafe.com members. So jump on board. It's a lot of fun.
And one last plug here for the store.postwrestling.com. It is currently Black Friday week. So we're doing a 25% off all t-shirt sale. Right now at store.postwrestling.com. We haven't done a sale pretty much all year. So this is our first one. We don't do them too often. 25% off of all shirts, store.postwrestling.com.
Let's get into tonight's show. A 5-match show spread out over 3 hours and 11 minutes. And the pre-show I had on in the background, the only thing of note was an interview with Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler, who joked about injuring Raquel Rodriguez and all the different sounds that different bones make that they can break. Baszler has an affinity for ankles cracking, and Ronda notes that Uncle Gene would love a neck crank. And
shout out Gene LaBelle.
They did show Raquel showing up in an arm brace, and then during the broadcast, they said that she will be out for 4 to 6 weeks. So that was the
interesting. You think it's a legitimate injury? What is this?
I mean, obviously enough that they could do something on Friday, but it certainly was done as a reason to, I guess, write her out for 4 to 6 weeks. So I don't know, like, if it's an actual injury, something else, but obviously it was done for a reason on Friday, in addition to building up this story tonight. So the Open saw Ozzy Osbourne lip syncing to War Pigs.
Yeah, a recording he made. I think in the 70s or, maybe even earlier than that. So to see modern day, Ozzy like that,
is quite the sight.
That I think most of us probably know more for like that reality show, like crazy.
God, this song was released in 1970.
Yeah, like
this is a 52-year-old song.
I know. Like I just have such a like separation of like modern day Ozzy Osbourne from like Black Sabbath, so it's weird like hearing that voice come out of this face, the same face that I saw on MTV like 20 years ago.
Well, they incorporated Ozzy Osbourne quite a bit here because his new song they also used on this. They were plugging his new album as well. So I'm very happy that this pay-per-view cycle is over and we can retire War Pigs until next year.
Wait till next year, John. You're going to get it just as much. I mean, this seems to be their song of choice.
Hunter loves this.
There are a lot of songs about the war in its title that they can go for. By the way, this is it's an anti-war song.
Yeah.
So I guess I don't know.
Maybe that should have been brought up. Maybe that should have been Sami Zayn's role in the match to really bring it to. But then again, Born in the USA also was not a very patriotic song either. So it gets utilized for its opposite intent. The announced attendance from Michael Cole was 15,609. WrestleTix listed a setup of 13,042, but it was a sellout. So looks like some potential exaggeration here, but this was a strong demand from the get-go. I think that it was. The tickets went on sale pretty early in the Hunter run, so I think you had a lot of momentum, and then you, on top of it, added WarGames. So it did seem like there was a lot of excitement for this show, more than I would say a lot of recent years of Survivor Series, where this has not felt like a significant show, and I think this was a marked difference this year.
just even before we even get into the content of the show itself, I mean, I would say the promotion of this and I think just the excitement that you're drawing with the idea of a new concept being introduced was already a winner for me. You know, the moment they announced WarGames, kind of making the jump over from NXT into main roster, it provides a freshness to the concept of Survivor Series, and I think a certain specialness to the concept of Survivor Series that really was not there before. In years past, I mean, we've gotten away from sort of like the 4-on-4 tags, and this instead they chose to stick to this Raw versus SmackDown shitty thing that I've always hated. There was that one year with NXT that you know made it somewhat fresh, but beyond that, it's a concept that I think has always felt forced and it's failed. And I'm so glad that they decided to transition.
Including all the champion versus champion matches.
Yeah,
like to
awful.
me, like unless you had a few pairings that really stood out, you know, by and large, like it was a very tired concept and an indictment of the brand split every year that it did not feel like here it is. This is the World Series where it's like the interleague play. It was like never taken seriously. It was time for a change on this show. So opening things up is the women's WarGames match. We have Bianca Belair, Becky Lynch, Asuka, Alexa Bliss, and as she is introduced, Michin, Mia Yim.
Yeah, so some controversy over the past week about exactly whether or not this was an official name change. WWE.com had it changed officially to Michin and then changed back to Mia Yim. So I don't know if they can really make up their minds about it, but I think she's at least going to be called both sort of interchangeably.
Like a nickname, yes.
Yeah.
And they're going up against Bayley, Dakota Kai, Io Sky, Nikki Cross, and Rhea Ripley. So the way that this works, two women start for a 5-minute period, and then entrants enter every 3 minutes thereafter, with the heels having the numbers advantage in this match and the opposite for the men's match. What did you think just about the just the layout of the match in terms of the structure, the intervals, and how that worked?
Now, this feels like it's pretty classic, like WarGames rules, right? Like,
Yeah.
does it feel that any different? Because like in NXT, they would of course like they added some variations. I don't know if Blood and Guts like varies it up at all, but like it felt pretty standard to me. Like everything, the intervals, and also the number of people on each team. I liked it overall. I mean, I have certain issues I think with the actual match itself, but as far as like the structure of it, I didn't really see anything to complain about. Did you?
I just, and it was always my complaint with WarGames is just like, you really need dynamic performers in this, because the way these intervals were structured, like you're pretty much going 28 minutes where you have no near falls, you have no near submissions, and you have to keep that audience's attention before you can tease any kind of finishes. And it's a long ask of your audience to stay engaged when we're talking about pretty much a half hour before you can do anything meaningful in the match.
Right. What is the alternative though? Like, what is the shortest interval we've had for one of these types of matches? Like you need to give enough time for the wrestlers to actually be able to kind of build something, to build up their spots, to build up whatever tension, to set up a babyface comeback, for instance. And what is it, 2 minutes, John?
3.
Oh, 3 minutes. Yeah. I guess you can argue 2 to 3, but they wanted to pad out the show, I suppose, and give them enough time.
Well, Bianca Belair and Dakota Kai started this off, and Cole was constantly bringing up, the history, especially of the NXT performers. This was Kai's fourth WarGames match, and brings up in 2019 when she turned on her good friend Tegan Nox.
Yeah, they spoke of it almost as if it was this classic moment, and if you watched it, and certainly within NXT, I tend to agree that it was. It was one of the great things about that particular WarGames match. Yeah.
Yes, and this is Michael Cole being allowed to reference people that no longer are in the company, which there was plenty of on this show, and has been consistent with Michael Cole throughout this.
I mean, we're past that already. When we're talking about triple tails and I don't know, like
we'll get to some. He had his deep cut of the month coming up later. So match begins, and it's a nice back and forth that they have here. At one point, Belair tried to whip her with her braid, but got caught with a scorpion kick and ends up with Kai being powerbombed into the cage. In number 3 is maybe my favorite performer of the 10 in this, and that was Io Sky. She came in here outside of, she had this one kind of bungled spot in the corner, but Io Sky, when she eventually becomes a babyface, is going to be just outstanding. I thought she was great in this match. We had this crazy sequence with her and Belair, just a very athletic sequence. This is also, she's been in 4 of these WarGames matches. Now, the one issue Sky had was she tried to use the turnbuckle to kind of kick herself up into a seated drop kick and kind of got tangled in the rope. And this was a crowd that, when there was any kind of miss, they were very quick to alert them that they had screwed something up. Like, this was this was not a forgiving crowd when it came to any kind of spots that did not look smooth, and they were on top of this one.
Yeah. I mean, maybe it tells you something about, I think, how I find that tends to be more the case, like with the more passion or hardcore, I suppose, a fan base might be. And maybe you just kind of got that here. It was a very noticeable screw up, though, and very unusual for Io Sky.
And a pretty, like, not the most, when you look at some of the spots in this match, not the most complex one either. Just seemed to be like a timing issue. Asuka's in 4th, so she has a showdown with Io Sky, and Michael Cole, while not dropping the Triple Tails reference, does refer to their history from their days in Japan. So did note that, and we just get this huge series of strikes from Asuka. Nikki Cross is in 5th, and the idea here is that Nikki Cross is out of her mind, and like, she's technically part of the heel team, but she's really just out there for herself. And she brings in trash can lids and then slams the door on Asuka, and the crowd is chanting for tables. The table was incredibly over on Saturday night. And then she takes off her jacket and starts using that as a weapon on Belair and Asuka. Alexa Bliss is in 6th, and Belair needed to really try hard to take this kendo stick. She went to break it over her knee, and man, this was a knee that was not cooperating, or a kendo stick that was not cooperating, but she was bound and determined to break this kendo stick, and she finally did. I mean, it's not the easiest object to snap, but she finally did. Then Bliss and Asuka use kendo sticks, and Nikki is watching them all fighting while sitting on the perch on top of the cage, and comes off with a high cross to everyone, including her own team, which, I mean, they kind of call out, and it makes sense for this character. Like, she has no regard for anyone, regardless of team. It's like, here is the out-of-control character that we have recruited, but is just out here being crazy.
Yeah. I mean, this type of stuff happens all the time, even if, like, you didn't have a character like Nikki Cross. You know, it's a sacrifice play.
Yeah, this was our first spot off the top of the cage. More to come. Bayley is in 7th. She gets some ladders into the ring, and then she pulls out the table. This might have been the biggest pop on the show when this table got pulled out. This crowd erupted for this table. That's what they were here. These 13,000 people, they wanted to see a table break. That's it.
Forget Sasha Banks. You know, just bring a table in and make that the tag team champion.
Yeah, so what they did was they trapped Belair between the 2 rings and slid the table across the middle ropes to trap her and attack her. And then Cross is pulling the braid through the fence, and she's trapped. Mia Yim, Michin, which I was reminded multiple times is crazy in Korean, comes in 8th. And
this is a great way of learning a foreign language. You know, just like name a professional wrestler that word. You know, like give us another one. Baka, we know now.
We're learning tons.
Yeah.
So we got an impromptu match here with Mia Yim versus a trash can to try and get this trash can into the ring. After several tries, she did. Yeah. And then Yim dives onto Bayley from one ring to the next, and all 8 are down as the clock counts down for Rhea Ripley's entrance. She is the 9th entrant and comes in, and she is dominating. Sky then runs the ropes just like she was MJF here, teasing the dive or something. Like, she just ran these ropes forever before finally hitting a seated drop kick. And then there is a cannonball by Yim onto the trash can, and Sky hits multiple trash can lid shots to the head of Yim. The final entrant is Becky Lynch. I have to say, during the countdowns, by about the 3rd entrant of the first WarGames match, that sound effect, when the clock hit 0, I was ready to retire that sound effect.
Okay, I didn't pay that close attention, but it was
a thumbs down show for me based on this sound effect. This was like a grating sound effect. I was like, this is
how did it sound again?
It was like piercing. Okay, it's like zzz. It's just constant. Go listen to it. Once you hear it once, you can't like unhear it.
I guess it must have not bothered me that much, but okay.
Give me the old horn or something or anything.
All right.
I'm nitpicking. I get it. Becky Lynch is in 10th, and the crowd, the first cross misses Becky and hits Sky with a trash can. So Becky puts the trash can over top of Io Sky, and at first I thought Io Sky was gonna. Do you remember that WarGames where she had the trash can over her and did the moonsault?
Yep.
It's like, please do not recreate that. I don't think we need to tempt fate with that a second time. So Becky then squares off with Bayley and yells, "Get up, you little bitch." And Ripley then attacks Becky, and we see a riptide onto Becky, but the save is made by her team. Asuka hits Ripley with the poison mist that they did call the poison mist. So this was the dangerous mist. This is like Muda's it's the red mist versus the black mist. We got the blue mist here.
It's not that usual mist that's just, like hydrating and refreshing. This one is lethal.
They teased like a massive Tower of Doom spot, but then they took it apart. They didn't do it. And then Io climbs to the top of the cage for a moonsault onto Bianca Belair and Mia Yim. So very fantastic spot there from Io Sky. Cross then handcuffs Bliss and brings up, "You think I forgot?" But then Bliss handcuffs herself to Cross and delivers an electric chair. Unfortunately, she takes the worst of it, landing on the trash can, and the announcers call attention to that. We have Damage Control do a face-off with Belair and Lynch, and they call back to SummerSlam. Like, this was the showdown in the post-match when Damage Control returned to the company. And it leads to a manhandle slam on Kai, a KOD to Sky. So Kai and Sky get placed onto the table. Bayley gets sent into the cage with a KOD, and then Becky comes off the cage with a leg drop and pins Dakota Kai in 39 minutes and 36 seconds as the baby faces win, and then they all just started dancing to Becky's theme song.
Yes, they did. Yeah. Our first WarGames match in WWE main roster history, and I feel like it could have been better.
I never know where you're going with these. It's so dramatic.
I think they definitely got them by the end. You had an excellent sort of sequence with Becky and Bianca playing up their year of their feud with one another, and to finally see the two of them pair off together to team up made for, I think, a really heartwarming sort of like storytelling moment, plus that incredible finish of her diving off the top with that leg drop. It was spectacular, and they certainly got the crowd by the end. But I think the rest of the match, even though it had its moments, it also definitely had its issues. I, for one thing, didn't sense that much crowd sympathy for the baby faces during the extra man advantages from the heels. That's sort of like the key ingredient for these WarGames matches, And
outside of Sami Zayn, I would say like across the board, that was an issue. Like with the baby faces lacking that that crowd like living with those baby faces to overcome. Like Becky was certainly very popular in this match, but to me it was something that kind of hurt some of the other matches that we'll get into.
Yeah. And I don't know if that's because of a lack of care for some of the characters earlier on, or maybe it was the content of some of those portions of the match. There was a lot of sloppiness in this match with some very awkward spots, like the Io spot that we mentioned. Just even something like me, I'm having trouble throwing a trash can into the ring. Bad landings from Bayley, off of a Bianca Belair powerbomb. The 4-way superplex spot that I don't know if that was intentionally like supposed to happen at the same time. They pulled it off like in sequential order, but then like the last one happened at the same time. I understand how difficult it might be to try to like synchronize everything when it's that spread out. But even like Alexa like missing the trash can when she was trying to hit that electric chair drop. I know these matches are supposed to be brutal and there's supposed to be a level of chaos attached to it, but I thought a lot of the opportunities in this match felt more like missed choreography rather than like a struggle leading to just damage. But there were positives, and to me that was Rhea Ripley here. She was made to feel incredibly special, coming in at the very end, having very tense stare downs with Becky Lynch, and she feels like a really big deal right now in the women's division, elevated certainly above even Bayley and really anybody else on the heel side of things. Rhea versus Becky like is being really well built just on this alone. And I really like the team up for Becky and Bianca at the end. No Sasha chance.
No, that was not something that was evident at all on this show. I don't think that was no, it wasn't on the audience's expectation list. I think that this match, I think it benefited from the novelty of being a WarGames match, that people took it as a big deal. To me, it never reached that kind of fever pitch of a match where you were just even towards like the closing stretch for me, where you really want to peak this match. And quite frankly, I think if you're going 40 minutes, my expectation level is very high. Like that has to warrant that amount of time. And I didn't feel like that this match really lived up to that. And just from a story perspective, there are certainly directions coming out of this. But I would say at the end, it was sort of like Belair and Becky kind of arm in arm. It's almost as though that is like the two dominant forces at the end, winning it for their team. And I just, and maybe they do go to that, but I think that as well, they protected Rhea Ripley fairly well in this match. I just wanted to have something in this match where you had a more clear direction for who's the next contender that's going to emerge. Ripley, you can certainly go that way. And I mean, a lot of this too was about kind of reestablishing Becky as, you know, one of the top women. So you had that coming out of it. This match certainly had its good points to it. Io Sky being one of them for me. I thought by and large, I mean, corner mistake or not, I thought that she looked really good in this match. But it was still, to me, like a 40-minute match. To me, it's like you almost need to be having like a match of the year level to be asking that time of your audience. I think like that's where we're at. Like that's a solid amount of time that you are asking your audience to stay engaged with.
And that's what this group and this team that's booking them are capable of. We've seen them like steal the show on these NXT WarGames matches, and you know, like create, I think, some incredibly dramatic moments through either booking or just in-ring action. And I felt like, you know, even compared to a lot of the NXT WarGames matches, this was beneath that standard.
The only backstage stuff throughout the night was a series of segments in the Bloodline locker room, and this is playing off of SmackDown on Friday night and Jay eavesdropping the conversation between Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. So Jay tells Roman he knew from the start that Zayn couldn't be trusted, and he is the reason they lost the advantage match last night, and says that Zayn and Owens were chopping it up on Friday, and then Zayn lied to my face. He lied about chopping it up. And Reigns tells Jay, tonight, you be the right-hand man and you do your job. I'll handle everything else. And Reigns says he's going to look into Zayn's eyes and he will know if Zayn is telling the truth. And then Reigns summons Heyman to call Sami. And it took Sami a long time to find the locker room, because Heyman called him right away on his phone. And it wasn't until like several matches later that he made his way there. I mean, what was Sami doing?
Probably warming up, you know, like, I mean, it's a big arena. Right?
Where doesn't he get access to this locker room?
You know, maybe he was just trying to prepare himself for what to say.
I would have been suspicious. Who's he talking to? Where is he?
All of this stuff was, again, very well done. They set the story up yesterday really well as well, and then just kind of continued throughout the night, leading to a big payoff by the end of the evening in the match.
Finn Balor and AJ Styles are next, and the women were not part of this match, which they shouldn't have been, coming off of the War Games. So you had Damian Priest and Dominic on one side, and then Anderson and Gallows in the other. And Balor came to the ring. It looked like he was wearing like a welder's mask.
Yeah, some sort of like full, I mean, I guess gimpy type of mask. Yeah.
Going for, the gimpy welder.
Okay, yeah.
And then Michael Cole goes through the history of Ferg, noting his team with Ryusuke Taguchi, Apollo 55.
I know. Maybe he's going to join the Judgment Day.
Maybe Finn should have come out in an astronaut outfit with Dominic.
Could have done
that. Would be fantastic.
Yeah.
So Styles starts by just attacking the leg.
He had a mask too, AJ.
Oh, that's right. I missed this.
Yeah, he's a welder versus I guess I don't know, gas. gas line repairman. I don't know. I'm sure there's a better name for it. Anyway.
Styles
Yeah.
Styles is going after the leg of Balor to weaken it for the calf crusher, and then Balor is begging off, and he says, "Come on, AJ, we're boys." And Priest distracts, and it allows Dominic to trip AJ. So Gallows and Anderson attack, and they all get into a brawl on the floor, and then they exit through the crowd, and they're gone. So they're left on their own. Balor survives a calf crusher and hits a double stomp onto the sternum, and then Balor teases the Styles Clash. AJ counters and can't get the calf crusher, but does land the Pele kick. Balor hits one of his own. They're both down. And then we see Balor continuing to borrow moves from Styles. He hits the Ushiguro. Then the 1916 gets blocked. Styles misses a 450, and then Balor recovers, and he goes for the coup de grace. And on his bad leg, he misses, and then he's limping, and AJ rolls to the calf crusher. And I was thinking at this point, this is an awesome finish. If he just taps here, and he's about to, but then he slams AJ's head into the mat. And at that point, I'm thinking, AJ's got to be losing this, because that was the perfect finish for what this whole match had been set up to. But then Styles absorbs a kick on the apron, hits him with a forearm, and then hits the phenomenal forearm and pins Balor in 18 minutes and 23 seconds. Overall, I really enjoyed this match. I would have loved just the calf crusher. Like, they structured the whole match around this, and other than the idea of like Balor not tapping, I just thought like that was just like a perfect finish they had set up here. But anyway, they went with the traditional phenomenal forearm, and AJ wins.
It could be they didn't want something that, made Balor maybe look weaker than just a standard pinfall loss. Tapping out to a submission might have probably made him look a bit more weaker. Like it might have been that much more definitive of an end to this feud when you're trying to continue to build the OC versus Judgment Day. I thought the match overall was fantastic. To me, it was a great exhibition of like two of the best wrestlers in this company and possibly in the world still. And I think
and longer than I did not expect 19 on a show like this. They went 18-23. I was not expecting them to get that much time on this, but it was a really good match.
I didn't feel that length. To me, that's a testament to like the quality of the match here, because to me, it felt special seeing these two together. I was surprised to hear that this was only the second time that they had met in the WWE, and with the last time being 5 years ago. That actually quite surprises me. Part of what I think made AJ such a great follow-up leader to Finn Balor and the Bullet Club is the fact that they're both so incredibly similar in ring. They have signature moves that are almost analogous to each other. They have moves that are directly taken from each other. And I think by the time you get a match like this, it makes for this sort of tremendous fight between two versions of the same person. Almost, they almost amplify each other's abilities when you're placed in the ring with each other. And I thought the story of Balor's knee was really well told. I think they dug into actual New Japan history and actually did a good job telling that story. They kept away from all the faction interference stuff here, and I think it was a recognition that like this was a match for the hardcores. This was a match that needed to be presented in pure sort of like uninterrupted form with a definitive winner and a loser, and I thought it was very satisfying by the end.
Yes, you'll get plenty of your bullshit on television. We'll give you this one on the PLE. Ronda Rousey against Shotzi for the SmackDown Women's Championship. This is where they note Raquel is going to be out 4 to 6 weeks. And they state that Shotzi is dedicating this match to her late father, who passed away earlier this year, which was, you mentioned that. And I think it's always tough when you put like the babyface in that position on a show like this. Although this was not really part of the, I understand like the notion of dedicating this. It just feels as though like it's such a, like you want this person to triumph in that kind of a situation.
I know sort of like the classic, example of that is like Davey Boy Smith in England dedicating it to his sister and ended up losing
when he thought he was winning the match and then was told he is not winning the match after he had dedicated it to her.
Yeah. I didn't feel as icky about this one because, Shotzi is a low Carter or a mid Carter. Like she's not somebody who has received any sort of singles appearance on a pay-per-view. So to me, like getting this championship match against Ronda Rousey was already more than I think you would expect from her up until this point. So you can recognize that simply being in this stage is enough of a win. And will she have another opportunity in the near future to be able to dedicate something this significant to her dad? I don't know. So this was, I think, the most important match she's had in the main roster up until this point.
Rousey has Shayna Baszler in her corner, and after missing an enziguri, Rousey goes for the ankle lock right away, and Shotzi is breaking free. She goes for a dive, and Baszler gets Rousey out of the way, so she takes out Baszler with the dive, and then sends Rousey into the steps, and Shotzi comes off the top into a throw by Rousey, and then Rousey yells, "I can beat you with my feet," and then went back to an ankle lock.
I can beat you with my feet. Okay.
Yeah, what a threat.
What did she do? Was it a sweep or something that made her say that?
Well, I think she was kicking at her when she said that. So,
okay. She could beat you.
She's gonna pound her into oblivion, I guess.
Yeah, I think the trash talk probably needs a bit of work from this heel Ronda.
Yeah, there was I'll get to it at the end. But then Rousey like flips her over and kind of gift wraps her while tying up the leg. And then Shotzi lands a right hand. Michael Cole and Corey Graves, they go nuts. There's like, it's one lucky punch. I'm like, I don't think that was the buildup. I don't think this was this prime boxer. This was not the Logan Paul story. This crowd, this is what we had. To me, throughout this match, its detriment was I felt it was a lukewarm heel against a babyface that not one person in this building believed was winning this match. And it was severely hurt by that because this babyface needed that audience to react to anything, and they were anything but here throughout any of her offense. So she then goes for a DDT to the edge of the apron, and this just totally got messed up. This was just looked really, really bad.
And I don't know who really kind of takes the blame, or maybe it's, it kind of goes around the both of them, but it was certainly not a head landing. It was more of a collapsing onto the apron.
Yeah, this was the I don't know if she got all of that kind of move.
Yeah.
Then she kicks off of Ronda into a Shiranui onto Baszler on the floor, and then both are sent into the crowd, and Shotzi hits a cross body, and I guess they had several plants in the seats to fall down for them, and they all go down here. And then with that, there is a judo throw as Rousey recovers off the turnbuckle for a 2 count, Piper's Pit, and then the armbar as Shotzi submits in 7 minutes and 13 seconds. Just between the crowd reaction, I just did not feel that they were behind Shotzi in any way as a viable babyface for Rousey. And I thought, honestly, like I've been more optimistic about Rousey as a heel, but in this match, I found it to be really elementary stuff, and it was awkward. The trash talk, I felt to be very beginner. I did not think this match worked.
I think I have like more of a soft spot for like Ronda Rousey's WWE run in general than I see in a lot of the audience and even in our chat room. I feel like a lot of her performances as of late, especially on these like pay-per-views, have been met with a lot of negativity. And maybe for me, like I still have such like warm fuzzy memories of her MMA run that like I'm able to see through a lot of it, and I'm still able to really enjoy it. And for me though, I was more so paying attention to Shotzi in this match, and I felt like, no one is expecting a title change at all from it. I think the most you could hope to achieve is some sort of showcase for Shotzi, who has been largely invisible, during her WWE main roster run. And I feel like she did enough here to at least achieve that for me. Like I thought she showcased like a really, spectacular daredevil style, somebody like who's not afraid to jump and off of stuff. They crafted some nice spots with her, like her diving off the barricade onto the crowd. She, to me, at least impressed here. Finish to me felt a little abrupt. I don't know if they were running overtime or what, but
with all the stuff on the 7-minute match is the one that gets rushed at the end. Although, it to me was just, it was anticlimactic at the end. Like after you did that big high cross spot, and then boom, we're going into the finishing sequence for Ronda at the end of this. And
I feel like I heard Ronda say, "We gotta go," like right before she delivered the Piper's Pit. But I mean, I could be kind of wrong. So, this is a type of match that really is just kind of there to hold Ronda over. You want to establish her heel run a little bit, and you're waiting for a new challenger to be set up when all the baby faces are being taken up right now on in the WarGames match. And maybe Raquel. Like, who do you think is the next person to challenge for Ronda?
Well, I think at this point you're probably looking for, a bigger challenger, because the next big match should probably be at the Rumble for Ronda, and then you're getting into like her Mania program. So I would say from this point on, you don't, like, you could do some stuff on TV with her to hold her over, but I would say you have to get some big baby face over going into the Rumble, and whether that is. I mean, you can look at your list. It's not the deepest list of baby faces on SmackDown.
Yeah, I feel like they'll go the Raquel direction, just with the story set up. I mean, also if it's the Rumble, the concern is that they'll do another sort of lame duck challenger, because they'll recognize that the Rumble is a match that kind of sells itself.
But Raquel should come back for revenge and at least get a match somewhere, if it's the Rumble or TV. I mean that. But
there's a lot of negative sentiment coming out of, I think, every single Ronda Rousey win from this point on. They're gonna have to do something to maybe get people a bit more excited, because she's going to be holding on to this championship all the way until WrestleMania. We know Becky Lynch is the destined opponent, and can they make a Ronda run compelling enough until then?
Yeah, it's she has certainly, I mean, cooled off dramatically to me than the first WWE run. And, the heel character, like, I think Shayna helps, but this is far from we have reached the goal of this heel character. I think she still has quite a ways to go. Zayn walks into the Bloodline's locker room to meet with Reigns, and he is asked, "Did you speak to Owens?" And he says, "Yes. And I lied to Jay, because he had a big match that night, and I didn't want to put that on his plate, and he already has problems trusting me." It's like, this is great. And Owens spoke to me, not vice versa. I listened, and that was it. And then Roman says, "What did Owens tell you?" And Zayn says that I should turn on the Bloodline before they turn on me. Reigns says, "This is my family. This is my blood. And I need you to look me in the eye and tell me if you are with us or if you're going to stab us in the back." And I'm like, Roman, that's not how stabbing people in the back works, okay? They don't give you a heads up ahead of time. Zayn is with them, he says, "and it means the world that you have taken me in, and I am one of the 5 people allowed in this locker room. I will not let you down tonight. I will not let you down on any night." So Roman stands up, and you don't know which way he's going to go, and that smile comes on, and he says, "Let's do it." And then they hug, but then Roman gets serious again. This was tremendous.
It was so good.
Like, these two, it was almost like who was going to crack here, because it was so serious, and they just stared at each other.
Oh, well, to me, there was no danger of cracking. I mean, yes, like this
I could not do this. I would just break.
This feud to me certainly has been kind of made its name on like fun segments involving Sami Zayn. But when it's time for these two in particular and Jey Uso to get serious and act, they knock it out of the park. This was like one of the better acted wrestling backstage segments I've seen in a long, long time here. The tension I thought was so incredibly well built between the two. And I feel like, heading into WarGames tonight, and really from this point forward, Sami Zayn is the lead character, and he is a babyface. Don't get it twisted, everybody. He is a babyface in a heel faction. You can make the argument they're all kind of babyfaces.
It's the reason the advantage kind of worked. Like, it's so counter to tradition of like the heels having the advantage, but Zayn was the X factor that threw that out the window for me in that match.
Totally agreed. Yeah. He is the guy that we as an audience are supposed to completely sympathize with. We know that this man is just caught in between some bad situations, and that he's not doing anything wrong. Roman questions him here, did you do something? And Zayn just tells the truth. He is completely loyal. He describes exactly what happened that we saw last night. And he even got into a level of emotion here, like the pausing in his voice, him looking down, he staring at Roman and exactly doing what Roman is looking for. Like, he's telling the truth with his eyes, and I thought Zayn just kind of conveyed that so well. And then you have Roman Reigns, whose ability to transition between like being ice cold to completely warm with that smile is just like so outstanding. Like he's the mean dad that you just desperately want approval from. And I think he just manages to kind of command like the entire scene every time he gets into this sort of mode. I just continue to be so impressed with all of this.
If you go back and watch the first segment with Roman and Jay, and then the segment with Zayn and Reigns, if you just pull up the screenshot there,
okay,
Paul Heyman was
so
awesome
in
both. Okay,
yeah.
And his demeanor changes in the two. Like it's you can see him like that he is this shadow that is over top of all of this that you just suspect is the puppet master behind some of this. And he's just tremendous as this ominous figure that has Roman's back. But this was like some great segments that they did. They didn't overdo the backstage stuff. What they did though was very key for the story of the show.
And this is the story of the match. Absolutely. Yes.
Second from the top, Seth Rollins, Bobby Lashley, and Austin Theory for the United States Championship. So we had kind of like a traditional start of like the three-way match where it's like one guy would get taken out and we're doing like the three-way spots. And then it picks up as Rollins just like turns it on here and he's hitting suicide dives to opposite corners. Then he's hitting a tope con hero onto both. And then this audience just goes nuts. And Seth Rollins was totally taken as a babyface the second he came out. Lashley then yanks Theory out of the way of a stomp and Lashley goes for the hurt lock while Theory applies a sleeper to Lashley at the same time. Everyone gets free and there is a pedigree by Rollins onto Lashley for a 2 count. Then Rollins climbs to the top and it's time for one of his several times a year Phoenix splash attempts. But Theory then dumps Rollins out of the ring, rolling blockbuster, and he goes for the A-Town down. That's countered to the hurt lock, and Theory kicks off of the turnbuckle while in the hurt lock, rolls on top, and the camera is zoomed in on the cover, and out of nowhere comes Rollins off the top with a frog splash to Lashley to break this up. This was awesome. And from this moment on, the last like third of this match, to me, it was watching Seth Rollins, who was just phenomenal. Theory tries a pedigree. Rollins then attempts an A-Town down, and Lashley tries a double hurt lock to the two of them, then misses a spear in the corner, and we see Rollins go off of Theory to stomp Lashley, and then the superplex is delivered to Theory, and he rolls through, lifts him up for the Falcon Arrow. Lashley gets up and staggers and spears Rollins, who's got Theory hoisted, and as Lashley kind of knocks himself out, Theory lands on top of Rollins and gets the fluke pin at 14 minutes and 51 seconds. I disagree with the outcome of this and the fluky finish, but this was just so good. And Rollins, I just thought was just, he's outstanding. He was so good in this match. And this was one that if you listened to our preview, I had like just not a whole lot to this match. It exceeded my expectations, and Rollins was a big reason why. And it's kind of why I want to see this title like very important and meaningful. And to me, Rollins is that guy. But Theory, I guess they figured after the way he was booked, he needed something here.
Yeah, the booking of this one was one of the more interesting questions to me heading into the show. How were they going to maybe protect an Austin Theory while keeping a Seth Rollins reign going? And they chose to end the reign and instead give it all to Theory. I actually I know what your criticism might be about the finish. Like, does it necessarily make Austin Theory when he just kind of backdoors his way into a victory like this? I feel like the fact that he was simply able to survive and ultimately kind of squeak out even this sort of like, I don't want to say cowardly, but just like you could argue
like it was like he was like out cold essentially, and he just landed on top of the guy.
You can make that argument, but or you can also say that it was a smart victory, right? Like, they'll try to play it up like that. I think it was necessary for him to get this sort of conclusion because of the failed cash-in. This redeems it. He didn't win the US title through the Money in the Bank, but he ended up beating both Bobby Lashley and Seth Rollins in a match, and he will continue to drive that point home that he legitimately beat these two. And I think that'll be enough. I'm less excited for an Austin Theory US title run than I would have been for either a Lashley or Seth Rollins run, but I think the result needed to happen just to kind of set Austin Theory on that course. But the story of the match is Seth Rollins. He was outstanding here. It was like he ate like an invincibility star and just like went crazy. Like you saw some incredible stuff from him between the topes to that Mario like double jump stomp. And even to the finish here with the Falcon Arrow into the spear. He was incredible. Lashley and Theory were really right there with him. This ended up, I think, for some, perhaps being a show stealer. And that was a lot more than I could say.
I'll say this. I thought Rollins was the performer of the night on this show.
Yeah, I would not disagree with you. I do think we have to talk about the start of this match and Austin Theory's entrance coming out to a Beyblade commercial on his Titantron. Did you catch this?
No.
So Austin Theory comes out and then all of a sudden they cut to like a wide shot of him posing in front of the Titantron and then a bunch of fucking Beyblades. You know what that is, John?
No.
They're like spinning discs that were toys like from like I think like 20 years ago. Okay. They're like these spinning tops all of a sudden start spinning on the Titantron, and then this Beyblade Burst quad drive logo pops up on screen as they cut to, the opening graphic of them being sponsored by this. They used Austin Theory's Titantron to play a commercial. This was unique. This was something that I'm sure, like Stephanie will be very proud of. Hey, look, we're finding new opportunities to monetize our synergy, blah, 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 blah. I think this is way too far. Like a Titantron for a wrestler is essentially their name tag. And to throw a Beyblade commercial.
Say what you will about Vince McMahon, but he had his limits. Like he wanted a clean canvas. He wanted, outside of Brock, when he came back and was able to get the sponsors on his shorts. And I think like Cena had a deal at one point with like Mark Echo, like very, very few chances. Like think of like guys trying to get sponsorships on their tights and stuff. Totally. Like none of that. Think of the amount of money that just to get logos on the canvas, like AAA and CMLL do. Like they have like tons of inventory there, and that was always a no-go. And I don't know if that same philosophy exists, and this would certainly be a signal of that.
Yeah, nothing that Vince seemingly didn't really want to affect the sanctity of the match. I mean, unless it's zombies in the match, of course.
Yeah. To me, it was always an odd kind of like put your foot down kind of thing when there's like it's very counter to so many other instances in this company.
But especially when you have a wrestler that I think is trying to battle irrelevancy as much as an Austin Theory was, to kind of saddle his entrance with a fucking Beyblade commercial. You got "Let's Go Beyblade" chants during this match for him. And if this result was not what it was and he didn't win, then I feel like this would have been even worse of an idea.
Well, they're going to be isolating those chants and be doing cartwheels that they got a chant going. And Stephanie will be talking on the next investors call about we had an activation with Beyblade Burst, which led to the unique chant from the Boston chapter of the WWE Universe who chanted, "Let's go Beyblade," in an organic fashion that took our brand and made you feel Beyblade.
Yeah, and they'll go dig up Twitter and look at all the mentions of people complaining about like laughing at the Beyblade integration.
It was trending after.
Oh, it was trending. Yeah, it did all these mentions on Pro Wrestling Podcast. Check it out.
Yes, as Way mentions too. Yes, Hulk Hogan was also trending after his return at Crown Jewel that year, and but then you could look at the tweets.
So congratulations to Seth. Austin Beyblade.
I'm glad you caught that because I was as I'm taking notes, I totally missed that aspect of this match. So there you have it. A great performance, in particular by Seth Rollins. Reigns then meets with Jay. He says he looked Zayn in the eye, and he saw everything he needed to. And that is our precursor for the men's WarGames match. Roman Reigns, the Usos, Solo Sikoa, and Sami Zayn against Drew McIntyre, Kevin Owens, Sheamus, Butch, and Ridge Holland. Owens is out wearing a Dusty Rhodes shirt, which they did note, the man that came up with the concept for 1987 at the Omni.
And then, honestly, this was a thought that didn't even cross my mind. Next year, having Cody. I mean, Cody, we already saw it in Blood and Guts, but like, did we see him in Blood and Guts? Did he end up doing that match?
No, he was not in Blood and Guts. Yeah.
So you don't have him.
He was going to be in the first one at the Prudential Center, but then that got delayed, and then he wasn't in. He wasn't in the two. He was gone by this year's one and wasn't in last year's.
It'll be very special if he's healthy this time next year.
So I love the entrances at the beginning. First of all, the Bloodline come out and they just feel like superstars,
all dressed in red.
Yeah, it was nice. And then Solo Sikoa just crosses his arms and stares like a hole into the babyface's chamber. He's great, man. Like Solo Sikoa has instincts that are very advanced for his amount of time.
He's got instincts. I also imagine he's got incredible coaching, from all the people that are around him. I mean, it's Roman, it's his parents, or his dad, it's his, every uncle that's in the family. Paul Heyman, that I'm sure is probably taking a good control over him. So yeah.
They state how the Bloodline have never been in a WarGames match, but Paul Heyman was involved with the Dangerous Alliance against Sting's Squadron in 1992, which is a hell of a WarGames match, by the way, from 30 years ago. So they were able to rely on Paul Heyman's firsthand knowledge from 3 decades ago.
Yeah, I know a lot of this is like maybe, Graves kind of mentioned, Cole, you love Twitter putting you over or something to that effect.
Yeah, he said you love Twitter being nice to you.
But it has a real benefit to these matches. And that went for, AJ versus Balor and even something like this. Not to even say that they would have hit against this under the Vince era. But I don't know. It still feels really unusual for him to dig into their own history like this.
So Butch and Jey Uso start the match, and it's Butch targeting the fingers of Jay's injured hand that he still has taped up from the injury he had on the European tour. So focusing on the hand and wrist for most of it. Ridge the Fridge is in third, and Graves notes that Ridge won't win a lot of style points, but he's able to double team Jey Uso along with Butch. The fourth entrant is supposed to be Jimmy Uso, but then Reigns holds him back and sends out Zayn instead, and they want to see how loyal Zayn will be. So Zayn stalls for a long time before finally getting into the ring, and he has to work with Jey Uso for this period of time. And he goes in and then he goes after Holland and he pats Jey on the back. Jey did not want that pat on the back and he gets pissed off. And then there's a spot where Holland is going to run into Jey into the fence, but Zayn pulls Jey out of harm's way and he tells him, I got you.
So the whole time, we see Sami is telling the truth. We see he's very earnest. We don't expect him to turn on the Bloodline whatsoever. But we're all wondering, when is the Bloodline going to turn on him?
You're wondering, it's like, when is the shoe going to drop? That's essentially it. The drama is who is going to stab who. Mm-hmm. Drew McIntyre is fifth, and he tosses Sami Zayn around and says, I'm feeling pretty Usy right now. Jimmy Uso is sixth, and this is when the weapons start, where the tables are brought in, and then Zayn and Jey argue over who is going to set up the table, and they start shoving each other, and they cut to Reigns, who's just shaking his head like a disappointed parent. Kevin Owens is seventh, and he brings the chairs in, and he just starts walloping the Usos with chairs, and then a cannonball is hit to Jey, a swanton, and then he has the standoff with Zayn, but before they can go at it, Holland attacks Zayn. Solo Sikoa is in eighth, and he goes at it with Owens for quite a while. And then Sikoa and Drew, stemming from the Clash at the Castle screw job by Sikoa, they go at it. And then ninth is Sheamus, and Zayn tries to keep the door shut, but Sheamus just rips it open, slams it into Zayn's head, and the Brawling Brutes beat up the Bloodline against the fence. In number 10 is Roman Reigns, and WarGames begins at the 28-minute mark as we go for about another 10 minutes here.
Do you feel like at least maybe for the first match, maybe less so for this match, that the audience was maybe quieter for the opening portions because they knew that this match wasn't going to have a finish until the match beyond?
I think a combination of, your biggest stars are coming in at the end. In the first match, Becky. In the second one, Roman Reigns. I think that affects it. And yeah, I do think that. It's not like the crowd was dead, but it's 28 minutes is a long time. And you've just got to rely on brawling and weapons in there, which it subsides, but it's a long time.
It might be one of those cases where you can see why blood might have helped something like that. having sort of like the visual of a babyface bleeding and really in need of help, and then people cheering for the other person to come in to rescue him, like that would probably fill out some of these portions a little better. But I mean, they've made great WarGames matches without blood before, so maybe it was a bit more pronounced in tonight.
Maybe we'll get CGI at some point, like they can add blood
CGI
that
blood.
way. Yeah.
Okay.
So there were some chants for Reigns as he entering, and then the two teams square. They love this spot where everyone just stands on their side.
I love it too.
Battlefield.
It's like straight out of a comic book. Yeah,
it's
great.
It works sometimes. And then they do it in every one of these. It's a go-to for them. So they go at it, and then it's just a brawl, and then Reigns is the last one standing. After a Superman punch to Sheamus. Sheamus then lands a kick, stopping a spear. We get the 50 beats of the Bowdrin with all 5 babyfaces pounding the chests of their opponents.
In the gutter between the 2 rings.
Mm-hmm, yeah,
I love
it was a clever spot, and the audience really liked that one. Then we start seeing Zayn attacking Butch, telling him that's the tribal chief. And Jay misses Butch, and he super kicks Zayn. So that was important. It was Jay who screwed up here and hit Zayn.
So they still kind of left you a bit of a benefit of the doubt whether or not Jay intentionally did it. But the key was that Jay showed zero remorse afterwards. He's kind of happy about the accident.
Then there's a 1D to Butch off the turnbuckle, a double super kick to Holland. It saves galore here. Reigns then spears Holland through a table, and a spinning solo puts Drew through a table. Owens hits the stunner on Sikoa, but Reigns yanks him off, so Reigns and Owens go at it. They're delivering strikes. Reigns blocks a stunner, hits the Superman punch, but then Owens stops a spear with a super kick, pop-up powerbomb, and hits the stunner. Reigns is down. 1, 2, and Zayn grabs the referee's arm and stops the count, and Owens looks at Zayn like he's been betrayed. It's like, dude, we're on opposite teams here. This is how this goes. So Owens and Zayn go one-on-one here, and Owens then catches a super kick from Jimmy, and Zayn has to just act in the moment, and he kicks Owens low. But after hitting this, he's conflicted. Reigns gives him the nod, so Zayn executes the hit. He hits the haluva kick to his best friend and then drops him down right there for Jey Uso to hit the Uso splash, allowing Jey to get the win for his team in 38 minutes and 33 seconds. And Zayn, you can still see is torn, but then Reigns gives him a hug. And this was like the full indoctrination of Sami Uso.
And even more so than Roman, Jey Uso,
who embraces Zayn, and he fully welcomes Zayn in, and Zayn just celebrates and yells, "I'm Bloodline." And my first instinct or reaction after this was, this would be such a different match if Owens had somehow been not able to go here. So he was really lucky that that the injury was not worse, because there's not another member of that babyface team that you can do this with Zayn. It would not have had the same weight. I think it would have really restructured the match not having Owens in this.
They would have had to fabricate some sort of, like, I don't know, relationship between Sami and Drew, or like Sami and Butch maybe. Yeah, you're right. It wouldn't have worked. So
eat my dog, my dog.
Yeah. He was key, and I mean, clearly he seemed more than healthy. Kevin Owens.
No, he did a lot. They didn't even leave him till the end for the babyface side. I mean, he was the standout guy on that team, like much more than Drew or Sheamus or any of the other guys.
So by the end here, we had at least some tease of a bloodline turning on Zayn. Of course, we had Roman giving Sami Zayn the embrace, but looking into the camera and kind of giving, a bit of a cold stare. So you don't exactly know what's going on in his head. You had Jey Uso unintentionally, we think, kick Sami Zayn in the head and then show zero remorse out of it. But beyond that, the bloodline were pretty loyal to Sami Zayn here. We never got really any indication from Roman. He was questioning Zayn, and I think that's why he threw him in there second instead of Jimmy. But you never got any indication that they were doing that. And by the end, you have a bloodline that's more united than ever. And I feel like the reason they did it is probably because that they wanted to keep this going a little longer. They could have done a whole lot to blow it all up, for them to turn on Zayn or for Zayn to turn on them. But clearly they see a whole lot more life in this unit, and I'm very happy for it. This match I thought was tremendous. The action was really strong, but I think the storytelling is what I'll remember most out of it, with the central figure in Sami Zayn. The setup for it between Jey Uso, Roman, and Sami, and Paul Heyman in the back from last night to tonight was also incredibly strong. They have effectively made him like the biggest babyface in this company while being a member of the biggest heel faction. This tension is so great of him being in the midst of this group that can turn on him at any second. And I just can't wait to see it continue throughout the year.
Yeah, I would say, if just on its own, like, to me, this was all about the story and how, like, the different finishes. I thought it was really compelling. You had the drama of Zayn and Owens with Jay and Reigns as kind of your central figures, and then sort of your secondary players in the match. Far from the best WarGames match I've ever seen, but it was very compelling. I was very invested in this match, and I think this audience was too. And you're still at the point of this Bloodline story where I think your audience is very engaged in what's going to happen next. At some point, you have to have a major shift in the story, like some significant moment has to occur. But you don't have to be doing it in November, when this should be peaking for those Montreal shows, for Mania. Like, that's when this should take form, and you are months away from that.
I think the settling of like the Sami Zayn, loyalty storyline, and specifically Sami and Jey Uso's sort of rift between each other, that to me was a significant moment coming out of this match. You're firmly establishing Zayn's sort of status in this family. They are accepting him now. He is gaining power within this unit. What's that going to look like? Like, this does begin another chapter where he's no longer really on his toes. He's no longer trying to, gain the group's respect. He has the respect. And then after that, what do you do to kind of continue to build that tension? What is the next bit of tension if it's not necessarily Zayn's loyalty that they're questioning?
Well, I think based on the stunner near fall, like, Owens is 100% the next challenger. And you can argue that atmosphere wise, that's an amazing match for Montreal, but you also have a stadium show in January. And that was the match coming out of this, is Reigns and Owens, based on this guy had him beat. That maybe you end up doing that in San Antonio in January, and you have something else for Owens and Zayn at Elimination Chamber.
It almost seems too perfect, though, to have it for Owens in a hometown crowd, with Zayn sort of playing like an accessory to it all as well. Would you save it for that?
They've also been hitting you over the head that Owens he was the closest to beating Reigns at 2 years ago at the Royal Rumble. So you do have kind of that symmetry to go back to 2 years later at the same event.
You can also potentially do a series. He could maybe Owens gets his first crack at the Rumble, and then it continues.
He puts something up at Elimination Chamber,
or do you have Roman be a part of the Elimination Chamber match?
Oh, I think Owens. Yeah, I mean, it's yeah, I was thinking more of just like one-on-one at
I am too,
Chamber,
but will they want the champion as part of the elimination? I mean, there are a lot of ways they can play it. They're in very good shape right now. I think it's very clear to me that you're not going to get any sort of like Zayn turn until Mania or after,
right. Because in theory, you've got the Rumble winner, and you don't need to create a second contender at Chamber. You have your one contender coming out of the Rumble, and then you could have Reigns defended in Montreal.
So much of this also depends on like what Roman's direction is at WrestleMania.
Yeah, Roman might not do Elimination Chamber if there's not something. I would think you do want him on that show, but
if it is going to be like Dwayne, that's going to kind of interrupt all of this, right?
Yep.
Like you're no longer really going to focus on the Sami Zayn story when you've got The Rock, right? Nor Kevin Owens when you've got The Rock. So is this enough to kind of tide them over until whenever they tell the WrestleMania story?
I mean, I would just guess like Owens is a holdover, and maybe like the Mania direction is like, yeah, it's a compelling one. They've done a very good job with it, and Montreal is a great place to build up to a match that it's going to have one of the best atmospheres for a WWE show next year. And then you've got like the direction is like Sami Zayn against the Usos, and it would make sense like how you get there of Zayn and Owens coming back together. Well, you have months to establish that and do that after tonight. So yes, the Bloodline continues to be the most compelling thing in WWE at the moment. And I thought they pulled off a well done main event.
What do you think about Survivor Series WarGames as a whole?
I mean, it's I'm not gonna go. I don't feel I'm gonna go full thumbs up on this one. I thought that there was enough good that I thought it was a very good show overall. I slightly go up based on that 3-way overperformed for me, but I'm gonna stay in the middle, to be quite honest. And maybe I'm being hard on this show because Balor and Styles was really strong. I enjoyed the men's war games. I enjoyed the 3-way, and that's like, and the women's one was it was good. It was not a great war games, but it was good. Ronda and Shotzi I thought was a bad match.
I go thumbs up on the show overall. I thought a really strong men's war games in the main event.
That's probably the fair assessment. Like, it was a good show.
Really, to me, really good matches in Balor versus Styles and the 3-way, which completely exceeded my expectations. The women's war games match had its sort of a faults, but I thought overall, I think I just still really enjoy war games, and I thought they really kind of nailed the finish. But yeah, it was very imperfect. Maybe not the best representation of that particular match. Shotzi Ronda, like I thought it was good just to kind of see Shotzi, in a prime role on a pay-per-view. But overall, I enjoyed the pay-per-view, PLE. So I go thumbs up.
All right. If you want to jump into the StreamYard room, if you want to call in, you are more than welcome to jump in. We will also be taking your super chats if you're in the live chat or forum.postwrestling.com. Many ways to reach us.
Yeah, we have the call-in link available for all of our patrons and YouTube members. Just go to your email with the live stream link and also the community tab, the members tab for all the YouTube members. First of all, let's go to our super chat here. We got one here from Abraham Valhalla,
Sarah Rowe. No.
He sends $5. Thank you for the support, Abraham. He says, I've been watching since y'all left the other channel forever ago, but never sent in a super chat. Sorry about that. Keep up the great work. Not a problem at all. Thank you so much for at least
we've been waiting, us. Abraham. Every time we know
a dollar for every year we've been active on our own. So thank you for eventually.
Thank you, Abraham.
Thank you so much. And let's go to some calls right now from our patrons. Start off here with Hansi. Welcome to the show, Hansi.
What's going on? I gotta say, my sentiments are with you with what you guys said, but like, I think maybe watching AEW's Blood and Guts matches, and I feel like they encapsulate the spirit of what War Games is supposed to be, like the gruesomeness and all that. Like, I give the props to all the workers, and I'm not like trying to like say diminish their work or anything like that. They did some really good spots, but I just feel like there's a routine even within the latter years of NXT War Games that they carried over on here, where I feel like it takes me out of it when like they're running down and then they're just going for weapons. And it feels like it takes more effort to get these weapons while your like teammates getting like their head kicked in and all that. You know what I mean? So like some of that stuff is kind of a disconnect to me. I thought the match was overperformed. I gotta say
the defense for that though, Hansi, is that if you're going into sort of like enemy territory, you want to come armed. You want to come prepared.
Well, I mean, the way that they do it, like for example, like in AEW, like they'll have like powder in their pocket or something like that. Like they'll incorporate it. Like I'm saying, if you're gonna have a War Games match, then at least maybe put some weapons on the cage to like at least like
I don't like that. I think that's hokey. Like
I get it. I get it. It just sometimes it just takes me. I understand the motivation, but like when you're pulling out like 15 tables, you know what I mean? Like I don't know. But I'll say the main event. Like even though like I didn't think like the quality match like other past War Games, the story in the end all that mattered, and I think it delivered, and it was probably one of the better payoffs for a War Games match that I've seen that had good storytelling. And I just think what Sami Zayn's doing right now is like some of the greatest stuff. I'm not going to be at Mania, but I'm glad that I'm going to the Chamber because I'm actually excited to see where the story is by the time I get to the Chamber. I hope you guys are able to go to the Chamber as well, like from Montreal. But I'm looking forward to that. My question before I go is, Sami Zayn's getting so popular, and I know that he's not in the. There's people I've already had in my mind that it's Cody or The Rock that are gonna like challenge Reigns for the title, but most likely. But people in their minds like, oh my god, if this doesn't pay off with Sami Zayn dethroning Roman Reigns, and I'm like, I'm not gonna get myself in that like kind of tizzy because I know it's probably not possible. But do you guys think that like it'll become like one of those super powered up storylines where like it kind of forces WWE's hands into doing something with Sami Zayn if it gets too much? And I'll leave you guys with that. Anyways, good show this past week, and happy 5-year anniversary again. I enjoyed the diary and everything like that. Peace out.
Thanks
you
so
Hansi.
much, Hansi. Thank you, as always, for participating and giving us a great question. What do you think, John?
To get to Reigns and Zayn, I think absolutely you can do it at some point. Do I see that being the WrestleMania match? No, but it's
okay. Let's look at this though. Yes, on paper, it's not a match you would have called like a year ago. Like if you're not going to get The Rock, yeah, maybe you go to Cody. But Cody honestly, if Cody returned tomorrow, is he honestly a hotter babyface than Sami Zayn? I don't think so.
It's you don't know what kind of reaction he gets when he comes back. It might be,
but the story here is so strong. Like you
it's
have
a real
so
strong
much
story
history
with Cody too. It's just it hasn't been told in 6 months.
Yeah, but the direct association with Roman in all of this though feels like it's that much better. I wouldn't really kind of shut the door on it. Like what you're saying with Sami Zayn right now feels very much like a Kofi Mania, like a Bryan Danielson type of like movement where the crowd is just so behind him when the company never necessarily I think pegged for him to be in a main event championship contender type of role. But the story is so strong right now that I could see it getting that hot for WrestleMania.
It would be a huge match if they did it. Yeah, you can't discount anything. Things can, if we were talking at the 2013 Survivor Series, Bryan Danielson was certainly not pegged to be headlining WrestleMania that next year. He was going to end up like as of January, he was wrestling Sheamus on the undercard of WrestleMania. So
there was a time where like I really could see Sami Zayn like be WWE champion. Like just, I don't know, given obviously where Vince kind of saw him and just, him not necessarily fitting the mold of, I think, what they were looking for in sort of like a champion. But like after tonight, I could see it. He doesn't need to beat Roman. All he has to do is just tell a compelling story to challenge for Roman. Is that a WrestleMania worthy, match? Maybe
the story is there. Like they've done a tremendous job. Like the audience is ready to see that. If you ever wanted to pull the trigger, like I do feel it would be, and it doesn't have to be WrestleMania, but like to get to that next year, I feel it would be a big deal if they eventually get to that.
Let's go to Muggin up next. Muggin, thanks for joining us.
Sami Zayn is eclipsing Roman Reigns.
What do you mean eclipsing?
Period. Because Sami Zayn is single-handedly like in this tribal saga ever since he entered it, and
I wouldn't say single-handedly.
Yeah, that may be
the most interesting part, but it's a bunch of people that are making this work.
That's true, but it's like A, he's bringing a lighter side to Roman Reigns. B, the tension with Jey Uso is just delicious, and I went into this WarGames match thinking like the other shoe's going to drop, somehow, and I was dead wrong. I mean, I was a little upset at the moment, but I understand why they did it because it feels like they want to like drag this out even further. It was a very, very strong match. The storytelling was off the charts. It's between this WarGames match and the women's WarGames match. I feel like the men's match had stronger storytelling. And looking ahead to Montreal. Owens and probably. I'm thinking maybe instead of seeing Owens and Reigns again, because I don't know if Reigns is going to work Montreal. I don't know, but I could see a moment in the Royal Rumble match where Sami could make it to the Final Four, because I have no idea where Cody Rhodes is. I have no idea where Cody Rhodes is going to stand. Come San Antonio, because I feel like he's an odds-on favorite to win. But the way this honorary Uso story is going, I mean, that could very well turn the tide to probably have Sami have a big performance in the Royal Rumble match, and that could, and who knows? I mean,
so we had what Rollins bring up Cody. Rollins doesn't have the championship, but could that be the immediate destination for Cody?
I want to bring Rollins up for just a second. I mean, yeah.
Sure.
And speaking of Seth for a second, the U.S. title triple threat over delivered. I mean, Austin Theory's image rehab continues. I mean, it continues to grow. It continues, and I feel like Seth and Bobby don't really need the title right now. I mean, they've done such a great, Lashley especially has done such a great job of bringing that title back to prominence again. I feel like he's not going to be hurt by that, and neither will Seth. So I could definitely see WWE running back Seth and Roman and San Antonio, because the way the finish happened this year, if they definitely left that on the table, and I could bet you Triple H is going to be very, very motivated to redeem the Royal Rumble next year after how it was received this year. And overall, I enjoyed the show. It was great seeing Becky Lynch again, and I was halfway expecting Alexa to turn, given the whole Wyatt 6 thing, and
that I don't know if that's a thing anymore. The idea of Bray Wyatt having a whole faction. I mean, there's been no sort of indication of that on the TV.
Yeah, but I thought that was by design. Ronda and Shotzi happened. It was whatever. I mean, it was very cool to see Shotzi in a good spot, and AJ and Finn was on the same level as the one they had in TLC 17, which I was just watched again, by the way, today. It's on the same level.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much,
Thanks
Morgan, for your
Muggle.
thoughts. Yeah. What do you think of Seth Rollins as a potential Roman Reigns challenger for Rumble?
You could do it if you have a reason. To me, Owens is the one that you have set up now coming out of tonight, and yeah, you could hold Owens off until February if you wanted. But I mean, that to me was one of the very key spots on the show was the stunner, and you've already been setting Owens up for going for this rematch, so it does feel like Owens is front and center, and Rollins would be secondary at this point.
True. All right, our last call tonight goes to Brian. Brian, welcome to the show.
Oh man, I'm last. Okay, thanks again for the review, guys. You already talked so much about the plan for the potential plans for WrestleMania and who challenging Reigns, and the possibility for I'm not too sure about the possibility of Zayn being in there, maybe Montreal. I do feel that it'll be when Reigns' title reign ends, and I'm still thinking it's Zayn Owens against the Usos at WrestleMania, because I don't think you can do that in Montreal because of one of the Usos with the DUIs. But yeah, thumbs up show tonight, and I agree with a lot of your thoughts, and thanks again.
Thanks a lot, Brian.
Thanks, Brian. Yeah, that direction, is always on the table. I almost wonder if it's this is bigger than that, though. I feel like Sami is so hot that it feels almost bigger than just a tag team challenge against the Usos. But that's an obvious direction we can go. All right, let's go to forum.postwrestling.com for some of your written feedback. John, would you like to start us off?
We start off with Manny from Pacoima. What a masterpiece the finale of the men's War Games was. Sami has proven his loyalty to the tribal chief, turned on Owens, and fed him to Jay on a silver platter, thus creating the team of Jamie Uso. I don't know if that one's going to stick.
Jamie. Okay.
Yeah, maybe. The rest of the show was okay. Felt it was lacking a bit, and the triple threat was the match of the night. Where does the story of Sami go from here now, and what role will he play at Chamber or the Rumble? Well, we have been discussing. Lots of options of where you can go.
A lot of places they can go. Yeah. I'm curious to see what, they'll be celebrating Sami Zayn. What sort of
It's also a long time until the Rumble. We're talking 9 weeks.
Right.
That's a long time.
What sort of role will Kevin Owens continue to play in all of this? You know, will Owens just go back to Raw, or will he continue? I mean, if that means anything, anyway. But
I think if you're building to Reigns and Owens, Owens should be on SmackDown for that buildup. Like we should not be doing this separate show stuff. Like you put the guy on the show of who he is programmed with to build that up.
Sami Zayn did what he did tonight, but is there still any sort of like hesitation within him? Is there still any sort of like, you know, remorse from him going forward, or is he fully, you know, committed to the bloodline from this point on? I'm there for it, you know. Let's go to Kate from Montreal, who says, not for the first time, I let my expectations creep too high. The Sammy J moment at the end was excellent, but the rest of the show left me pretty cold. I thought Rollins Lashley theory was the best wrestling of the night, and I feel like Rollins has consistently had the best or second best match on every pay-per-view this year, except the weirdly curtailed fight pit with Riddle.
Hey, listen, Seth Rollins is one of the best guys in the world, and I think he doesn't always get enough credit. But you know, he's a tremendous performer, and I thought he showed it tonight. And he's had a very good year when you look at the Cody program, and you know where he has bounced around from like heel to babyface. But I think he could be a top babyface on Raw, and I think he was the guy to me to really bring that US title up. And I think with Theory, I think just he is seen at a level. So there's a lot of work to do with Theory, but they're probably going to keep these guys, at least in the immediate on television, connected to each other based on the finish and how that was set up.
Yeah.
Brandon from Oshawa, I thought it was a solid show outside of the Ronda Shotzi match. Both WarGames matches were really good, especially the last few minutes of the men's match, and the triple threat over-delivered and was match of the night. I found the crowd to be really bad, as seems to be the case with many WWE shows, especially lately. Why do you think that is? It's like they pop for the bigger stars and they pop for some spots here and there. Otherwise, they are dead. I wouldn't say they were dead, but there were certainly moments. Like I think it really hurt the Shotzi match, but it was also not a great match either. It's not like we were watching this classic and wondering where's the crowd for this.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of that. Like they certainly weren't quiet for the Sami Zayn, you know, Roman or Jey Uso interactions,
or those tables. They were there for those tables,
or the tables. Yeah, I think this was a crowd that wanted to see important things. You know, whether that be a very big spot or a conclusion to a match, or like, you know, something involving some of their favorite characters. I didn't think they were particularly bad. I mean, I do kind of maybe raise the question of like how a WWE audience will react to a WarGames match. First of all, without blood, and also maybe, you know, the match beyond concept of like where 30 minutes goes by without any sort of like result. How do they, you know, is that something that they'll want to tinker with next year? But anyway. Let's go finally to Bill and Alex, who says the bloodline with Sami Zayn is one of the best storylines that WWE has done in a long time. They aren't hot-shotting it and letting it live its own long storytelling form. If they can do that, they can surely find a way to do it with other wrestlers. I just watched the press conference with Paul Heyman, and Sami Zayn seemed to dip in and out of character. What's the goal with these press conferences? Further the storyline or answer legit questions from the wrestling press folks that are there?
These WWE shows, it is very much the former. It is character stuff, and that's what they are there for. I haven't watched it at all, so I can't even speak of the Survivor Series press conference, but I imagine.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how Sami Zayn, you know, performs at one of these press conferences. I also don't necessarily know how much direction they're being given to either stay completely in character or to, I don't know, speak as yourselves. Last time I remember, you know, Gunther certainly felt more like authentic, even like some of the other people that were on the show. I don't even remember that much anymore. But they just kind of seem like, you know, playgrounds for them to either improvise or to answer questions earnestly. And what's the intent? To create more content, you know, to maybe get you on their online platforms to I don't know, get numbers.
Yeah. All right. Well, there you have it. The Survivor Series press conference. Everyone can go check that out afterwards, and then you can report back to me. Tell me how the press conference was. I'm not sitting down to watch a WWE press conference.
I'll watch it. I mean, it's interesting. I'll be playing with my Beyblade while I watch it.
Okay. We'll enjoy that and your coquito.
Ooh, what an evening I've
What a
got.
combination. All right, we're going to be back on Monday with Rewind to Raw. Again, Ask Away is coming up on Tuesday night for patrons. You can post questions up at forum.postwrestling.com in the thread. And I also want to give a shout out, a big thank you to Neil Flanagan for covering Survivor Series on the site, staying up super late tonight in his time zone to cover the show for us as well. So a big thank you to Neil.
Our man always doing a great job along with all the other people that work at postwrestling.com. Karen Peterson's got her latest Dream Slam Weekly out there. Also a report from her live attendance.
Yes,
the crossover
yes.
show.
Several days later, but she was there live at the Ariake Arena. So a live report covering the historic crossover as well as this week's Dream Slam Weekly. So a 1-2 punch from Karen Peterson.
And one last time, store.postwrestling.com, 25% off of all t-shirts. If you enjoy our work or the work of our people that make podcasts on our show, consider picking up a shirt, either WrestleNomics or the Long Island and Royal Road or Post Perez, even Bushby and Thompson's Wrestling Adventure, Nate Milton's The Rocky Maivia Picture Show. You can pick up shirts from all of those, and the proceeds will be going to our podcasters. So enjoy.
That is it. Sunday, WrestleNomics Radio will be dropping on the site. Andrew Thompson will be on top of the news. And again, we will speak with you Monday night right after Raw. Good night.